back to Browducation. I am your host, Megs, and today is a solo episode. We are going to be talking about why I think the hand-tied method is the best threading method, and I'll die on this hill. I've talked about it before, but I felt like it was a good topic to talk about on the podcast. As you may know or may not know, I am a hand-tied threading expert, specialist, whatever you want to call it. I've been doing it for seven and a half years now, and I'm obsessed. It's what got me into the brow world. It's what brought me here to this point to be having a podcast talking about it. I built my business, and I am so grateful for it, and I kind of have made it my mission to share that and those feelings with everyone and anyone in the beauty world. I have a hand-tied threading manual that is going to be updated into a course soon. I am notorious for not being a waxer, being very much on the brow world, but not really waxing in it. And like I say, sorry if I blink a lot if you're watching this, I have those press-on lashes and they're so annoying. Please ignore that. But I was saying something about threading. So I tell people all the time I am about, I would say 98% threading, 2% waxing as far as my clientele is involved. And I'm notorious for not waxing when laminating. I only thread, don't even give my clients the option because I just feel like we'll get into that on another episode. But I kind of want to break down the different techniques. There is the hand-tied method, which is what I'm going to be talking about today. It is done with a loop of thread that is not attached in any way, shape, or form to my hands or my fingers. It is its own little loop that I can pick up or set down, just like waxing, leaving my hands free and clear to tweeze and trim and go back and forth and kind of jump around, which I feel like is the best way to be super and hyper efficient when doing brows. There's also a hand tied, but you wrap it around the fingers. I don't know all of these techniques through and through because they're not my preferred technique and not the technique that I do, but I do know of them. So there's that one. There is the around the neck. I think that also kind of has the fingers tied as well, but like you're also using your neck. And then lastly, the in the mouth, which is my least favorite. And I'm just going to go ahead and be transparent about that. I don't find it to be sanitary. And I listed 4 different options. I just feel like including that one, but 3 other options aside from that one. So like, why are we still doing it that way? Another thing is in the state of California. So when I talk about things in the beauty industry, my experience is only in the state of California. I really just don't have any insight to the other states aside from friends that I've heard from that live there, but it's not regulated in the state of California. I think that's why we see so many variations of it. I think that's why there's a lot of poor reviews when we talk to clients about it. I think it's gotten kind of a negative name, and I think that makes sense. If there's no regulatory board, there's got to be a lot of improper threading, poorly done threading, that's just kind of the name of the game. So those are the different techniques. Now let's get into why I think hand tied's the best. I think we have to talk about why threading is just better in general, and I've talked about this a lot. I think we know like the lack of contraindications. We're not running into those types of product problems, and we're not having to have our clients stop certain treatments or certain products like exfoliating products, retinol, acne treatments, acne topicals, different things like that. We don't have to stop them. We can thread through them. And I have said this recently, I'll say it again and again and again, but is the time to thread is now because clients are using so many products and so many different, they're getting more services and treatments done. They're using more products at home. And beyond that, they're using more exfoliators, serums, and, products that are causing real change within the skin, meaning that the skin is sensitized and stimulated. I just feel like as we lean towards that style of just like the clientele demographic, we have to be more proactive. The hair removal beauty professionals out there, right? Obviously, mostly the face, because, don't get me wrong, people are using those types of products on the rest of their body as well, but I would say we're mostly dealing with it on the face. And one issue is having to be hyper communicative. There are a million and one things that we have to communicate with our client, with the people that are within our business and us and our clientele. So we have to be even more communicative, right? Because we're like, hey, stop using this, don't use that, don't use this. We have to have a long list of things. We have to be really, really open. We have to do things. And I don't know about you, but when I got into the brow world, it was because I kind of wanted to say goodbye to the skincare world. I didn't want to have to be in charge of people's clients' skincare routines. I didn't want to have to know what they're using aside from where I needed it to, right? And I don't want to have to keep up with it all the time. And then, there's also the factor of clients not knowing what they're using, forgetting things, not realizing that what they're using is an exfoliant. I've definitely run into that problem before. And then we also have, and I don't say this if this is a client listening, I love you, I'm sorry, but this is just a fact of life. I can't 150,000% know that my client is being truthful. Some of them don't want to stop their retinol. They're going to say they haven't used it. And some of them will be transparent. Some of them won't be transparent. And you can get a new client. Maybe they didn't know. There's just so many variables. There's so many unknowns that I love the fact that I have the option to thread just so that I can curb some of these issues that I may run into. I love that I can, be proactive in a way that I don't have to worry about the integrity of their skin or causing lifting or anything like that. I feel like those are some really big benefits as the artist running a business and then just trying to work with clients, trying to make it as easy as possible for us because this job's fucking hard. So that's another thing that I love. There's tons of benefits for the clients too. I feel like it's a lot sharper. It gets those really fine vellus hairs super duper well. Once you get to a good point of proficiency, it's super quick. I can do brows a lot quicker threading than I can waxing. And even if you are a really good waxer who can do them really quickly, like, wouldn't it be a benefit to also be able to thread really quickly? I just feel like there's so many different things that we can go into that, and we can go into that more, but I just think it's not even just about replacing waxing. I think it's just having more options in your arsenal. And I don't know about you, but if I can't wax, I sure as hell don't want to tweeze an entire eyebrow. I would love to just thread. It's just so much easier. And, when you're doing it properly, I always say this, I'm like, I want to be as gentle and precise as tweezing, but as quick as waxing with my threading. That's always the goal, and it should be if you're trying to get into threading. I have my little cheat sheet, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm staying on task because I do be getting off topic. There's also some power in your thread loop, right? I think that not only are all the benefits that I just talked about, whether you're the client or the professional, but there's also some cool hacks. When you're first starting out, when you get really good at it and when you're first starting out, you can kind of, if you're threading a little bit slower, you can back out of a hair. I know with waxing, we can kind of do that with some products, but you may still pull that hair off. It's kind of nice to have the option to back out. And I also always love the idea, love the fact that I have a clear view of my space. There's no wax being applied, blocking areas or whatever. Like, I have clear view of all of the hairs as I'm threading. There's no products being applied. I think it's a lot easier to keep the sharpness with it. With the thread, I just think like having the clear sight and then also being able to use the thread loop as like a ruler in sense. You can pull it nice and tight and kind of line up, front to the arch or whatever, and just make sure that what you're seeing visually is lining up with like a straight line, basically. That's also a really fun, cool benefit. I think in comparison to other versions of threading, I feel like it's the most ergonomic. I think we have a lot of control in our hands and our wrists, our neck, not so much, mouth, not so much. And I think utilizing the loose loop method, I guess we could call it, I think having your hands free and being able to jump in and out of threading and tweezing and, tinting or whatever it is makes it really seamless and similar to waxing in that sense and giving kind of the same feel or vibe of the appointment as you would with a waxing appointment. Kind of just making everything feel really flowy. I don't want my client who comes in and gets waxed and then the next time she comes in to get threaded to think that it's a different appointment. Everything should flow exactly the same. And I do love that my clients can come in and have it feel interchangeable. The other really cool thing is having hybrid treatments. So, like, I can have a client come in for a thread and wax and they can get their brows threaded and their lip waxed because we know the lip area is not a fun one. I just love having the customization and the versatility for myself and my clients. So, this is one of the million reasons why I will be preaching about how much I love threading until the day I die or I leave the industry. I just feel like I have never had anything catch better with thread too. One of the coolest benefits that I learned when I was first starting out was the fact that you can utilize, because I know this is going to sound very counterproductive, but I will explain. You can remove ingrowns with a thread. So that thing that we're so worried about when we're threading is grabbing the skin, right? Sometimes we can grab a very tiny amount of the skin that needs to be pulled in order to rip that hair out, right? Instead of poking and prodding with a pointed tweezer or something like that to get that ingrown out, I can just thread across it. It's really quick and easy and it'll pop that hair out. That was one of the things that I thought was really, really cool. Another thing kind of related to it is that your hair length doesn't matter. If we're able to get ingrowns, we're able to get really short ones, we're able to get really long ones, and really, really long ones, like hair would be tricky. Obviously, wrapping around that thread would be a lot. So the sideburn area, I might trim them, but like I don't have to trim to a specific length. I think that flexibility is really cool too. And then like especially for like clientele, I think for a while, I don't know, there are some of us that are better about being like, you can only come in this often, and with like lamination and things like that, chemical treatments, obviously we're going to be very particular. But with hair removal, some clients like to come more frequent than others, and I like that it doesn't hinder my results. I can still give them a super clean shape no matter how often they want to come. I'm not leaving hairs behind, I'm not leaving hairs under the skin or anything like that, as long as they're not tweezing in between. I have never lifted skin the same way as I would with waxing on threading. I have talked to people, been in the DMs chatting with other people who do threading and things like that, other professionals, and they've seen it, but I've never seen actual like heat burn lifted skin in the same way. I have seen like
Hey, it's Emily here from Browfox Beauty. I'm so proud to be sponsoring this episode of Browducation. If you are new here, let me tell you a little bit about Browfox Beauty. We are a professional brow line for the esthetician. We specialize in easy retail for the busy esthetician. We also have a line of better back bar basics so you can be super confident putting pre and post wax solution and massage oil onto your client's skin, giving them the best glow and the best brows yet. You can find more information at browfoxbeauty.com or on social media at browfoxbeauty.
people, been in the DMs chatting with other people who do threading and things like that, other professionals, and they've seen it, but I've never seen actual like heat burn lifted skin in the same way. I have seen like almost like there was a pinch in the skin, like they weren't holding it tight enough, or I didn't realize, and I pressed too hard and I grabbed some of the skin as I removed. That's like almost like a very very thin layer of like a chunk of skin removed. It's very different and it looks different than a skin lifting, you like as if you would with waxing. I think when you learn any skill, any new skill, there's going to be things that you have to be conscientious of and aware of, and you know, make sure that you're doing everything as well as you can, and there's ways to avoid it. Like, when you're speed tweezing, you could apply oil or something like that to help it glide and not catch the skin, kind of similar to the threading. There's always going to be those issues, but in my almost 8 years of threading, I've never ever seen that type of thing. And of course, I've cotton skin. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect, but thankfully, it's superficial. Clients either don't notice it. I always point it out, and I always am 100% transparent with them. But I've never had it be an issue to where they felt uncomfortable or discomfort or anything like that. Like most of the time, it'll just look like almost like pinpoint bleeding from like a thick hair being removed. I'm thankful that it's not so much that it's like, what the fuck did you do to my face? Whereas I have had a client do a full face wax and had a like bad skin lifting and have it be a problem and have her switch to threading fully. I feel like, is there potential for damage if we're not being careful? Absolutely. But I do like that the damage is maybe a little bit lower. But, we have to be conscientious of that period. I just like to mention that. I just feel like if there is any damage, what I've seen over the years is not something that's horrendous and something that's easy and tends to heal pretty quickly. That's just kind of its own positive aspect. I also feel like every single time, and I think this is probably the same for waxing, even though I feel like the hard part with waxing is there's no way to change your technique in order to make it so you didn't lift their skin, because most of the time it has to do with what they were using, right? It's not usually you, unless you're like burning them with too hot of wax, but most of the time it has something to do with them, right? With threading, if I accidentally graze the skin, it's me. It's a lesson learned for me, meaning that I can just be more conscientious. I need to just have them move their hand the next time, do some micro movements, as hand holding and pulling and taut and everything like that. Or I can use a powder to help with glide, or, it's always a learning lesson where I can get better. And all I have to do is adapt my technique, and then I can come back and approach the situation better. Whereas nothing can be changed with waxing aside from the client just either being more honest or not realizing or whatever. So I kind of like that there's always a lesson to be learned, and it can just kind of fall back on me on getting better and trying to do better with every appointment. And I just feel like threading it's hard because at the upfront, threading is super hard and people hate it and the practicing and everything like that. But I think the payout is insane. I mean, I built an entire business around it, so that has to be saying something. But I think it takes time and practice and repetition. And I think that if you're not really in it because you love it and you really want to learn, you will not be able to learn because it's hard. I think if you have the perseverance and the consistency with practicing and really just wanting to bring it into your studio space, you'll get there, no problem. I've seen people in my trainings on one-on-one literally by the end of the day be like threading and removing hairs and feeling really good about it. And I've had people not really get it, never pick it up. So, I think that you got to be in it to win it. I think it's just something that we're going to see a very large rise of coming soon. And I'm stoked about it because I've been telling clients for years that I've been trying to push threading onto other professionals and really get its name out there. And I'm just grateful that we're finally seeing that kind of start to happen. Okay, we're going to shuffle over into ingredient corner. That's what I'm going to start calling it. The ingredient corner. We do these on every solo episode. I love to dive into an ingredient, pick it apart, and tell you its definition and kind of my own little thoughts. This episode, we're doing things a little bit differently. I am going to be showcasing Brow Fox Beauty's Dust. I should have had one with me. I don't think I do. But it's a really beautiful fine grained powder. I have a video of it on my Instagram. When this launches, I'll make sure to post that too. But anyways, Brow Fox Beauty, we love our sponsor and we love their product Dust. It's a really great product that can be used during threading for gliding. My number one use for it is when I'm doing a full face thread. I will apply it across the face just to help for gliding, and it also helps me see those itty bitty tiny hairs. Because as we know with threading, it's hard, you have so much hair to remove. We're not just slapping wax on in that whole section and then removing it. We're gliding, going across. There can be like little strips that we can miss. I think the powder helps us catch everything and also not catch the skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break you. We have my lovely books. Your girl loves her books. So we've got the Milady Dictionary. And then there was a couple products I couldn't find in it. We have my backup baby, which is by, let's see, Ruth Winter, MS, and it is called A Consumer's Dictionary of Cosmetic Ingredients. Let's get into it. I think, the first ingredient is going to be organic Mararanta arundinacea root, which is arrowroot. But it took me a while to look it up, but this is the accurate ingredient. This is in the Consumer Dictionary one, not Milady. This is an ingredient in dusting powders and hair dyes made from the root starch of plants. Arrowroot was used by the American Indians to heal wounds from poisoned arrows. It is used as a cultural medium and as a medicine. In cosmetics, it is used to help moisturizers penetrate the skin. The cool thing is, this is the top ingredient on the list, right? So this is probably the bulk of it. I loved and what stuck out to me the most was healing wounds. Utilizing it in this way is kind of a huge benefit and so much better than just like straight up talc powder or baby powder. Also, anything helping with hydration is going to be great because, as we learned from Renee, the guru, in his partnership with Natura Verde, they talk about how keeping the hairs hydrated helps them come out easier as well. Hydrating that hair shaft so that we can remove it properly. Love, love, love. Okay. Next is going to be, I have these marked, but I'm still trying to they're not they're not organized because I'm not an organized person. The next ingredient is organic tapioca starch. There's only a handful of ingredients, so just bear with me. It's not going to be like 12 hours long. Oop. Alrighty. Tapioca, and this is Milady. So this one, Milady Dictionary, under tapioca starch. I'm like, you guys are gonna be so over this by the end of the season, or over me. This is used as a thickener. It is also soothing and derived from cassava. We'll have to look that up in another episode. I don't know what cassava is. Should have looked that up. Pretty short and quick little definition there. Thickener. I think that's pretty transparent and understandable. I'm assuming that maybe arrowroot is a little bit on the thinner, so they just wanted to thicken it up so that it wasn't like completely sheer. Love the idea of breaking down an entire product because I think there's so much to be said about how many different things go into products and why. I love Ingredient Corner because I learn every episode with you as well. Next on the list is Cologne. Cowlin. I'm gonna have to spell this out for you guys because your girl cannot pronounce it. But clay. Clay. Calin. Jesus. Okay, just look it up. I'm sorry. This is again this is a mixture of various aluminum silicates. It is often used in powders and masks, giving it its absorbent, abrasive, bulking, and opacifying properties. This is the white color that we're seeing. This white soft powder has good coverage and absorption abilities, both for water and oil, making it an appropriate absorber of the oil and sweat secreted by the skin. It adheres well to the skin surface, yet is easily removed with normal cleansing procedures. Kaolin is considered a non-comedogenic raw material. So love to hear non-comedogenic, right? Probably not saying that correctly either. Y'all just gotta bear with me. Also, I love that it adheres really well. So it's not gonna be moving around a lot or you're gonna have to reapply a lot. It's gonna stay put. And then it's also gonna help with absorbent, right? So sometimes you can use this for pre-wax as well to absorb and get rid of those body oils and sweat buildup so that we can apply really well and then remove really well. And the same with threading. If we have too much oil, it can kind of glob up on the thread. It's nice to have just the powder. I think the reason being is that it glides across, it kind of kicks the powder away, whereas the oil kind of gums up the thread. It's kind of a benefit if the person that you're threading has a lot of oil buildup and they're sweaty. It's kind of nice to use that so that you have a good grip on the hairs and you're not sliding through and not catching things, because that's obviously going to be a possibility if you have too much oil built up on the thread. Okay, 2 left. We're done with Milady. We are moving back to consumer. And the next one is Zia Maize Starch. This one was interesting. I don't think I'd ever heard of this before. And it corn oil bulking ingredient, anti-static ingredient, may cause acne. So interesting, but thankfully this is the second last ingredient, so not a concern. I also feel like we're applying it and then removing it after we're done. I think that lowers the ability or the possibility of it causing any breakouts or anything like that. I personally have never seen it in my treatment room. I don't use it all the time though. I think it's good just to know that. But also bulking, totally understandable. Totally understandable. We gotta get the powder cannot be too fine or it's kind of useless, right? Okay, and then one more. Okay, the last one is potassium bicarbonate, which I thought was so interesting. It's carbonic acid, monopotassium salt, colorless, odorless, transparent crystals or powder, slightly alkaline with a salty taste. Use as a pH adjuster in cosmetics. I think that totally makes sense. We're probably just trying to keep the pH where it is and making sure that we're not messing with it. And this is probably just helping to adjust the pH within the product. So, very clean, very cutesy, very demure products. Love this product. I just love that it's talc free. It's got really beneficial products in it, and I've used it, and it's wonderful. Make sure to check out our girl Emily's Brow Fox Beauty Dust. And I will catch you next Thursday.